let's analyze this. So, we're in the aftermath of the great NXT Takeover Phoenix 2019 event. It didn't disappoint one bit. I was off in a lot of my predictions for, I believe, most of the matches. Let me see. I was off with 1, 2, and 3. I was off with 3 out of the 5 matches that were on the show. And yeah, but let's get into this review. So the opener was the War Raiders, or the Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong defending the NXT Tag Team titles against the War Raiders, Hanson and Rowe. Great opener. Fantastic opener. It was about 16 minutes, 57 seconds. This was just a well-paced, fluid match. The War Raiders have beyond impressed me more than they ever have. But I'm not too surprised because I actually took the time before watching NXT Takeover to look up a little bit on the War Raiders and try to really dig deep into more information, because I knew about them. I knew about them as War Machine, and I knew that they had been a tag team for a while, and they had been tag champs in Japan as the IWGP tag champs. They had been successful as champs in Ring of Honor and all of the other companies before coming to NXT. So I had known of them, their profile a little bit, but I thought that they were the typical 80s big men tag team that just kind of lumbered around and weren't that athletic nor smart in the ring. I just thought that their whole profile was they're big and they're monstrous and they're Vikings, and that's it. But wow, last night was amazing. They were on point with almost everything. They had me invested in the match. The Undisputed Era are really good at cutting off the ring. They're very psychological in terms of being a team. They I don't want to say they fight dirty, because that's not, even though the commentators want you to think that they fight dirty because they're heels, but they're a smart tag team first and foremost. And I think that's what is the true highest standard mark of what a great tag team is. A great tag team that wrestles smart, you know, or they at least give the impression that they're a smart tag team. There was one spot during the match where I believe one of the War Raiders, because I'm going off memory, I didn't take any notes. Most podcasters and wrestling pundits will take notes during an event. I didn't want to do that because I wanted to enjoy it first and foremost. And you might say to yourself, oh, well, why didn't you just watch it? Why didn't you just do it like you would a movie, where you watch the first time without, doing anything? You just literally just keep your eyes on it. And in the second time you watch it, you take notes like you would in school. I would do that, but I don't feel like I need to do that. I have a strong mental muscle memory. I'm very good at that. But I do remember this spot. I just don't remember whether it was Hanson or I believe it was Rowe. I want to say it was Rowe. Well, all 4 of them were involved in the spot. But there was a moment in the match where one of the War Raiders picked up, which, this is my favorite thing about the War Raiders, is that they literally throw each other at you. Like, they're a very simple tag team, but at the same time they're athletic and agile. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, they're very simple as a tag team, in which they just want to beat the fuck out of you in whatever way they can. They will beat the shit out of you. That's just how they roll. So one of the War Raiders threw the other War Raider into both Strong and O'Reilly outside of the ring. Only problem is that it was delayed. There was like a delayed reaction to the point where both O'Reilly and Strong kind of stood there waiting for the spot to happen for like a few seconds. And I'm sure none of you peeps missed it. I'm sure you guys saw this. And if you didn't, go back and look at it. There was about Strong and O'Reilly had about a good 10 seconds to move out of the way. And if this was quote unquote legitimate or quote unquote direct competition, they would have moved out of the way. I know if I was there, I would have moved out of the way, because they took too long to throw each other at Strong and O'Reilly, to the point where it was kind of a little bit awkward, and there was some sense of hesitation there. But other than that, the match was, I don't want to say it was perfect, because it could have been better, but it was a great opener, fantastic opener. I was actually shocked that this opened the show, because I thought Matt Riddle and Cassius Ohno were going to open. But then I thought about it as the event went on, and I said to myself, yeah, it wouldn't have made sense for them to open 2 takeovers in a row, because they opened Takeover War Games. Even though they weren't meant to open it, it ended up becoming an impromptu match. So the War Raiders ended up winning the match. They beat Undisputed Era for the tag titles. They're the new tag team champions. I was off in my prediction. I wanted the Undisputed Era to retain. I expected the Undisputed Era to retain. When I went on Twitter later after the event, I saw that people were saying, well, you know, the War Raiders had a cool, badass entrance, so of course they were going to win. And I guess you could say that, but that doesn't always guarantee a win. That doesn't always guarantee a win. Because remember, Rusev's entrance at WrestleMania 31 came out in a freaking tank, and he lost to Cena. So coming out with a badass entrance, or being the only, you know, your side of the match being the only side to come out with a badass entrance, does not guarantee you an automatic win. You know, but most of the time they end up winning. So even when they had that great entrance with the Vikings and what have you, which allegedly Sarah Logan was one of the Vikings during the entrance, because she's married to which War Raider is she married to? Let me see here. She's married to Ro. Ro is the one she's married to. Which, that's a 9-year difference right there between those two. But she was one of the Vikings, which I didn't know that, and I looked at her hair and I looked at the picture and I was like, that could be her. That could be her. I wasn't sure, but I'm pretty sure it's her though. What was the finish to this match? I forgot the finish. They did the double team move where one of them is holding one of the Undisputed Era members, and then the other War Raider puts the War Raider who's already holding one of the members of the UE in a power slam position. He puts him on his neck, so it's a power bomb power slam combination, or side slam combination, and that was the finish. This was a great match though. It was a great opener. It was very emotional, and it was so, like, the match was so interesting and intriguing to the point where when it ended, I didn't even realize it was only 16 minutes long. I thought the match was longer than that. I swear on everything. I thought the match was about a good 20 to about 22 minutes, but it was only 16. Anyway, next up, we have, I expect a rematch between these two teams, dude, by the way, for the takeover before Mania. Matt Riddle and Cassius Ohno. I I didn't predict the winner right, but I predicted the time of this match. I said it wouldn't go no more than 10 minutes. Because even though they work well together, I don't think that they're capable of wrestling each other more than 10 minutes. Cassius Ohno came out with the Phoenix Suns color scheme for his gear. And Cassius Ohno also came into the arena, to the Talking Stick Resort Arena, about 30 pounds overweight. And Matt Riddle, the ripoff of a bad stereotype. No, Matt Riddle's okay. I'm just joking. Matt Riddle's alright. Even though he is a ripoff, let's be honest. Matt Riddle instantly reminds everybody of Zack Ryder, but more intense, more, I don't know. There's more of an intense demeanor, and when you look at him, you take him more seriously than you would take Zack Ryder, I guess. Even though to me, Zack Ryder is more athletic, or was more athletic at one point. Cassius Ohno, man, he somehow got bigger since the last NXT that he was on. I don't know how that's possible, but it happened. For someone who wrestles at least every week, I don't understand how he could get even bigger, because that's not what it was like with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens actually slimmed down as time went on when he got signed, especially when he came up to the main roster, because he was wrestling even more, so he started slimming down. But Cassius Ohno, he somehow gained more weight. It's a shame, man. It's so odd, because when you're so used to seeing Chris Hero wrestle at the usual weight that he was in when he was in the Independents, and then seeing him now, it's a far cry from what he was. But I'll give him a lot of credit, like I stated previously in my predictions video. I will give him a lot of credit. The man is still very athletic. He's not as fast, he's not as sharp, but he's still very athletic, and he is still well conditioned. So I give him props for that. So he is still relatively motivated, and you can see it, but I don't know, he has to stop playing with his weight. And I am not ragdolling on Ohno or Chris Hero, whatever you want to call him. I'm not ragdolling on him. Like, I'm genuinely a little bit concerned for him, because as an athlete, not even just as an athlete, but as a person, your weight is not supposed to fluctuate. Fluctuation meaning it's not supposed to go up and down for, especially within a short period of time in your life. You're not supposed to play with your weight. Whatever weight you're in, you're supposed to keep it consistent. It's supposed to be relatively consistent, and it's supposed to match. It is supposed to match your overall, not strength, your overall stature. It's supposed to match your overall stature. So based on whatever height you are, that is what your weight is supposed to be. So for him, let me see how tall Cassius Ohno is, because I don't know exactly how he's called. What is he, 6? I was about to say about 6'3". Yeah, he's 6'4". I would say he's about 6. I think he's actually about 6'2 or 6'3". I don't think he's 6'4". There's no way. Well, he could be 6'4", because now that I think about it, he looks a little bit taller than Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar is 6'3". So yeah, I would say he's 6'4". All right, so he's 6'4". And what was he last night? What was his weight? About 270, 275. Yeah, that's a problem. That is a problem. 1 week, Cassius Ohno is 6'4". I'd say no more than about 250 to 260. And then last night at TakeOver, he's 275. They announced him as 275 last night. I remember that. They announced him as 275. That's an issue. But enough about KO. The match itself, it was decent. It was was pretty much a repeat in a way of their rematch from NXT a few weeks back when Ono, I believe, did Ono win? No, Ono didn't win. He didn't win any of the 3 matches. Riddle won all 3. I felt like Ono was going to win this rubber match to kind of, you know, I don't want to say even it out because it would have been 2-1, but I thought he was going to win it so it could give him better credibility, as in he's not just going to continue to lay down for all of these newcomers like he has been over the last year. I thought they were going to go with that narrative, that story. But Matt Riddle ended up winning. That boot from Ono, and y'all know what boot I'm talking about if you saw the match. That kick, it wasn't really a kick, it was more of a stomp to Matt Riddle's lip. Jeez, I did not see that coming. He literally kicked him right, just like square in the mouth, and Matt Riddle ended up having a busted lip, which it didn't take away from anything. It actually made the match even more intense. I thought that this was the best match. I believe that this was the best match out of the 3 because it was more offense on both sides equally, as opposed to Matt Riddle dominating the offense, because that's what it's been over the last 2 matches, even though the first match was only 6 seconds. But compared to the last match that they had against each other, this one was more of an even playing field. So Matt Riddle won with the did he beat him with the bro mission? I believe he beat him with the bro. I'm really going off memory. Yesterday I was tired all day. I did not get sleep Friday night. So I don't even know how I watched this takeover. I don't know how I functioned watching all of it because I was tired the whole time. But I believe Matt Riddle hit him with the bro mission or some type of submission maneuver. I literally don't remember. It's crazy. And Cassius Ohno tapped out. And then he kept tapping even when Matt Riddle let him go. I don't know. I don't see him being a part of this company too much longer. Like, all of the pundits, all the wrestling pundits and media outlets want to say that Ohno is essentially a player coach now, and that's what they want him to be. And they're heavily implying that when he retires from in-ring competition, he's gonna be one of the trainers for the PC. I don't see any of that happening because I don't see him retiring anytime soon. I don't think he wants to retire. I think he actually wants to do better than he has been doing. This is just my opinion, but this is what I feel. I feel like he actually wants to do better. You know, maybe he said anything different, which wrestlers, when they say one thing, they usually mean another, especially when it comes to shoot interviews. So most of the time they say something that they like where they are, they're happy where they are. Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they're full of shit. But that's how I feel about it. It's just a shame that we'll never see the Kings of Wrestling under a WWE umbrella at this point, because they just don't see Cassius Ohno as main roster material. And all of the media pundits have already said that Ohno will never be called up. So it's a crime. And I don't see Cesaro coming back down. Maybe for one match, but I doubt it'll be to team up with Ohno because he's part of the bar with Sheamus right now. So that wouldn't even make any sense. It would just be too random. So Matt Riddle won. It was under 10 minutes. I knew that it was gonna be like that. Next, rubbing my hands together like Birdman. Match of the night. I knew this was gonna steal the show. I knew it. I had no doubts. If you watch my predictions video, I had complete, utter faith in these two. They're in the prime of their career. They're at their absolute peak. Not just physically, but mentally, which is very important. And this match, oh man, I was extremely excited. This match literally took me back to my days when I was a kid and seeing Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and RVD and Rey Mysterio and Shawn Michaels, and just man, this match was amazing. It was so good. It was just really, especially the opening sequence. I'd say the first about 3 to 5 minutes of the match was just pure technical wrestling magic at its finest. You couldn't ask for anything better. You could not ask for anything better. I've noticed that Ricochet is slightly toning down what he usually brings to the table and what he's brought to the table in the past in the indies. And I'm glad that he's doing that, because it will prolong his career. And Johnny Gargano is just such a ring general. He is, in my view, the best technical wrestler on the planet right now, as of right now. I can't say career-wise, because career-wise, the greatest technical wrestler of all time is Bret Hart. Still is. Pound for pound. Career. From start to finish. Bret Hart. Undoubtedly. And then right behind him, career for career, would be Daniel Bryan. No. No, I'd say Daniel Bryan. I would say Daniel Bryan. Then I would put Benoit, and then I would put Angle. But right now, to me, the best overall wrestler in the company, to me right now, is Johnny Gargano. In terms of pure in-ring technician. That's just how I feel about it. He may not have had, well, no, you could actually argue that last year was arguably the best year of his career, but it wasn't the most successful year of his career. You can make an argument that it was the best year of his career last year, but it wasn't the most successful. I believe that this year will be his most successful. I believe that this year will be his most successful and his overall best. And a lot of people compare Johnny Gargano to Daniel Bryan in terms of his effect, his impact, and his character work, which I see that. But his in-ring style does not match Daniel Bryan's. Daniel Bryan's is more of a hybrid between mat wrestling, Japanese-like strikes, and high-flying ability. Gargano is not much of a high flyer. He's not, at least in terms of what I've seen from him. And I've been watching him ever since he came in NXT. I don't know about his indie work. I do not know about his indie work. Maybe he flew off the top rope more then, but from what I've seen from Johnny Gargano over the last 2 years, he's been more mat-based. And that's the thing, I don't count the slingshot DDT, like that doesn't count as high-flying moves. High-flying moves is when you come off the top rope. That's a high-flying move. That's why they call it high-flying move. Coming off the middle rope doesn't count either. But this was just a fantastic match. I can't say enough about it. Both men were just so sharp. There was this one point in the match where Ricochet didn't stick the landing, because usually Ricochet has to be not only the most talented wrestler that I've seen since AJ Styles when he was in his prime, but Ricochet is also the most well-balanced athlete, probably in all of sports, not just wrestling, but you can argue in all of sports, Ricochet is the most well-balanced natural talent in all of sports. I know that there was this one point in the match where I believe they were in the corner, and I think that Gargano was gonna do a Hurricane Rana to Ricochet from the top rope. Because I believe Ricochet was going for something and then Gargano countered it. I could be wrong. One of you peeps can correct me if I'm wrong. Once again, I'm going strictly based off memories. I took no notes. I probably should have taken notes. Now that I think about it, I should have taken notes. So Gargano went for the Hurricane Rana off the top rope. Ricochet was able to land, but he didn't land with both of his feet planted on the mat. He landed basically 1 foot planted, and then the other leg was on his knee. And then quickly, within like 2 seconds, he popped up to both feet. And he looked a little bit upset about it too, that he didn't, because you could tell that he wanted that to be perfect. Ricochet wanted to wrestle the perfect match against Gargano. I would say both men wanted to wrestle the perfect match. But the thing is that there's no such thing as a perfect match. There have been matches that have been damn near perfection and have been really close to perfection. But it's really hard to do a perfect match. Because there's going to be one little slip up. Whether it be minuscule to the point where nobody can see it with a naked eye, or whether it's blatantly obvious to everybody. But Johnny Gargano became North American champion once again. My predictions were off. I thought Ricochet would retain because I thought that, I mean, they still might do this, but I thought that Gargano would lose. He would lose the match and somehow get himself back into the NXT title picture, turn full-fledged babyface again, and finally dethrone that Sicilian psychopath dragon known as Tommaso Ciampa, either for WrestleMania weekend or SummerSlam weekend. So I thought they would go. They might still go in that direction. Who knows? Because I feel like eventually Gargano has to get that win back. He has to beat Ciampa for the NXT title. It would be a crime if they didn't, because so far Gargano and Ciampa has been like, you could argue that it's close to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. You could argue that is a better feud than Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And eventually Sami Zayn was able to beat Kevin Owens. Now, he didn't beat him for the NXT title, but he eventually beat him on the main roster. But Gargano has to beat Ciampa for the NXT title. It would just be, it's the perfect story that's already there, that's already written. They just have to pull a trigger. And this isn't Vince McMahon's NXT. This is Triple H's NXT. So I have full faith that they will do that at some point down the road. I would say they have to do that by the summer, no later than the summer. So Johnny Gargano, he beat Ricochet with the slingshot DDT in the ring, after giving him a, what did he do? I know they exposed the mat. Johnny Gargano exposed the mat outside at ringside, and he exposed the concrete. And I'm trying to think, was that a suplex spot? I think it might have been a suplex spot. I think Gargano suplexed Ricochet off of the apron onto the floor, which somebody on Twitter complained about that spot, by the way. They said, oh, why didn't the referee disqualify Gargano? See, the thing is that they don't make it clear. The WWE has never made it clear that if you do a move to somebody on the exposed concrete, that you're gonna get disqualified. They've never made that a rule. Because if you're gonna complain about that, then by that logic, shouldn't somebody get disqualified for throwing somebody into the steel steps? And we literally see that almost every match. By that logic, shouldn't somebody get disqualified for literally slamming somebody onto the steel pole outside the ring in the corner? Shouldn't somebody get disqualified for that? Shouldn't that be considered illegal? So I don't know. Like, they've never clarified that if you expose the concrete at ringside, if you pull the mats up and you slam somebody onto it, you're going to get disqualified. They've never said that was a thing. So I don't know where people got that from. They have never said that. At least from my recollection, I have never heard that being said by the commentators, the referee, or anybody. So whenever that became a rule, let me know. Alright. So, classic match of the year so far. Johnny Gargano and Ricochet. And I believe that is going to win match of the year for NXT by the end of this year. Man, I love that match so much. I'm going to watch it again later, after I'm done watching the Rumble. Most likely. If not, I'll watch it again tomorrow. Alright, next up, the so-called co-main event. Shayna Baszler defending the NXT Women's Championship against Bianca Belair. I take back everything I said in my predictions video about Bianca Belair. And I commented on the Bianca Belair backstage interview after Takeover. I commented, that was like, my comment is still the first comment there on that video, where I said that I was wrong about my assertion that Bianca Belair was not ready for the match. I take all that back. She was ready. She was not just ready, she was game. Mentally, she was there. Now, there was some parts, not some parts, but there was a point before the match began when Shayna was coming out where Bianca looked a little bit nervous. And I'm not talking about nervous kayfabe wise. I'm talking about she looked legitimately nervous. And she looked around a little bit. And she had that look like, oh shit, I can't believe this is happening. Which is natural. Like, I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing that she was nervous, because who wouldn't be nervous? They say in sports and in all of entertainment, really, they say that if you're not nervous, then you truly don't care. You don't care about what you're doing, especially at a high level. Because if you're doing something at a high level and you're not nervous, you can make the claim that, you've been there before, so you're not, this is not foreign to you. Of course you're going to be here again. You can make that claim, but for first timers, wrestling at a high level on such a big stage in front of that many people for the first time in your career, if you are not nervous, you don't give a shit about where you are. You don't. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. This match had the best psychology of any match the whole night. Bianca sold her butt off. It was great. She had me believing that she was going to win, even though I knew she wasn't going to win. I predicted that Shayna would retain, because I said Bianca wasn't ready. At that time, I didn't think she was ready to have that type of match, even though she was undefeated. And she already had 2 years of experience, but I still didn't feel like she was ready. I thought she had a great performance against Nikki Cross at NXT a couple of weeks ago in Nikki Cross's last NXT match. And the Fatal 4-Way was okay. The Fatal 4-Way, her performance was not that great. It wasn't. It was a bit off. And maybe because it was a Fatal 4-Way match, which multi-man, multi-woman matches tend to be clustered. They tend to be a bit confusing in terms of what to do, where to go. especially if the match is not planned ahead of time in terms of start to finish, spot for spot. So I don't blame her for that, but it wasn't a great performance. This match showed me that she's ready. Not only is she ready, but she will be here again. She will be challenging for the NXT Women's title again. No doubt about it. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. She had the crowd in the palm of her hand. And it was just amazing because I kept thinking to myself, oh shit, she might win. for like, it was a couple occasions where I genuinely believed that she was going to win. And I was like, damn. They're gonna do it. They're gonna pull a trigger with her. And then they didn't. But she will be here again. And I will talk about the whole thing with Sam Roberts later on in this review. Shayna Baszler retained with, what is her chokehold called again? Because every time they say her chokehold, I always miss it. I don't know why. I always miss the name of it. Let's see here. It's strange because on Wikipedia, you know how when you look up a wrestler, or when you used to look up a wrestler on Wikipedia, they would show their moveset, or at least most of their moveset, like finishers, signatures, other important moves. They don't do that anymore. I've been all over Wikipedia since last night, and they do not show movesets anymore for wrestlers. It's ridiculous. Or at least any of the current wrestlers, you don't see any of their moveset lists. Alright, it was, okay, she calls it the swing. Yeah, the chicken wing. It's basically a chicken wing, it's basically like a cross-faced chicken wing, right? In a way. Yeah. She popularized it for MMA, but what's the name did it first? Bob Backlund. Or at least he's the first one I saw do it first. The cross-faced chicken wing. So that's her finisher. She submitted, or not submitted, but Bianca passed out through the submission. Which, why do they not do the raising of the arms up first? Why did this company stop doing that when it comes to submissions? They literally just raise your arm. They'll either raise your arm up one time, and then if you don't respond, they ring the bell, or they'll just look at you, shake you a little bit, see that you're not responding, and then ring the bell. What happened to raising the arm up 3 times and waiting for it to go down? And then if it goes all the way down 3 times, you ring the bell because clearly the wrestler's unconscious. What happened to this? They stopped doing that for no reason. That made it even though sometimes it's cheesy as hell to see that, because they would do that a lot in Cena matches when he had, in his, I'd say the first 3 to 4 years that he was where he was the #1 guy in the company. They would do that with him a lot, and it was just cheesy as fuck, borderline ridiculous. And I'm doing that almost every match, but I don't know why they stopped doing that. It annoys me a little bit that they stopped doing that, because they spent so many years doing that, and all of a sudden they stopped. It's like, you don't stop what works. So they don't do that no more. I don't know why. I wish this company would go back to doing that. So Shayna retains. I wouldn't say this was Shayna's best performance, because it wasn't. Mainly because I don't know why. The offense to defense ratio was a bit off. It was never 50-50 in terms of anything. It was sort of back and forth, but not really. I don't know. don't know, they could have had a better match against each other, but the anticipation of Bianca getting out of the submission, or the submissions rather, that was the best part of the match. That was the driving point. That was the big storytelling moment, and she did an excellent, fantastic job. And then the commentators did an even better job of selling that, especially Mauro Ranallo and Nigel McGuinness. Percy Watson is not bad, but he doesn't offer that much to the commentary team. That's why I wish it was just a two-man booth. Two people is better than three. Usually the third man has nothing to offer really into the conversation, so it makes it makes it weird. It just does. Alright, now the main event, NXT title match. I was right with Baszler retaining, by the way. I was right in my prediction of that. And the match was about 15 minutes. Yeah, sounds about right. That's good enough time. But the main event, Tommaso Ciampa defending the NXT title against Aleister Black. Oh, I forgot to mention 2/4 or two-thirds rather of the quote-unquote fake MMA horsewomen came out to interfere. Marina Shafir, I've been saying her name wrong. I kept saying Marina Shafir, but Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke came out to interfere, which I knew that was going to happen. If you didn't know that was going to happen, then this has to be the first NXT that you've watched in a long time. They interfered, but their interference wasn't that notable. It wasn't like their interference directly resulted in Baszler retaining the title, but it had something to do with it, obviously. But yeah, NXT title match. Tommaso Ciampa defends against Aleister Black in the main event. This, excuse the sigh, by the way. I'm not about to say anything negative. I just sighed because I needed to sigh. I don't breathe too well. This was a good match. This was a really good match. I thought that this match was better than Aleister Black's last TakeOver match with Gargano, which that match felt too rushed. It was way too fast-paced. It seemed like it was just spot at the spot at the spot at the spot, which, once again, most of TakeOver War Games felt like that. Spot at the spot at the spot. No real pace, no real psychology, no real build-up, development. Ciampa is the best heel in wrestling, in my view, right now. And he is also very hilarious. That guy be having me dying laughing sometimes. Especially when he does that, when he just sits there and then he does that fast clap out of nowhere. That shit be having me laughing so hard. Because he just comes off as a huge troll when he does that. But this was a solid match. I like the psychology of it with Ciampa going after Black's leg. I believe he didn't go after the one. He didn't go after the leg where Black usually gives the Black mass. He went after the other leg. So I like that. Aleister Black is impressively athletic for, I don't want to say for his size, because he's not big. He's tall, but he's not massive. Ciampa is very good technically as well, which I get the feeling that we didn't see that very much in his feud with Gargano last year. But this was a solid match. I don't want to say it was a great match. It could have been better, but it was solid. There were some awkward. It was a little bit of awkwardness to it, slightly, very slightly. It didn't take away from anything though. Ciampa ended up What he ended up doing to Black for the finish? It's crazy. Like, all of a sudden, I can't remember the finish of most of these matches. Like, I remember how the match went, but I don't remember the finish. It's weird. The finish of the match, I believe, was... Oh! Now I know. Ciampa, I believe about 3 times he did, the hell did they call a move? It was an underhook face buster, basically. It's a double underhook face buster. It's almost like a pedigree, but you lift him up, tease that you're gonna give a suplex, but then drop down for a face buster. And oh my god, it's like the ending of your dreams, something like that. They said it they said it a few times, but I forgot the name. So he did that about 3 times towards the end of the match when Aleister Black missed his last Black Mass. It was like his 3rd Black Mass attempt that he couldn't connect on because of the leg injury. And then Ciampa then did 3 double underhook face busters. See, now if Wikipedia would put the moves list for the wrestlers back on their site, I wouldn't be having problems talking about the finish. Now would I? Seriously. But yeah, this is a solid match. Overall, NXT Takeover was really good. What would I rate it? I want to rate it out of 5 stars. I don't want to go out of 10, man, because out of 10 can be very difficult at times. So I'm gonna do out of 5, because it's much more condensed. It's a much more condensed rating system. It's much easier to be able to fairly, give a review. So I would give this. Was this the best takeover? No. I honestly can't say what has been my favorite takeover. There have been so many. I can't say what the best takeover has been. I don't know. I do not know. The Takeover Brooklyns have been real classics. The Takeover Brooklyns. Especially the first Takeover Brooklyn. The first Takeover Brooklyn they had, I believe, or was that the second one? I think it might have been the second Takeover Brooklyn, actually. Yeah, it was actually the second Takeover Brooklyn. The one where Finn Balor beat Kevin Owens in the ladder match. That takeover as a whole was really good. It was a really good takeover. I think that's one of my favorite takeovers. Takeover London was really good too, I thought. And also, what was the takeover where it was Nakamura and that was Takeover Dallas. Takeover Dallas was really good too. That was really something special. That's like some of my favorite takeovers. I can't concretely say what is the greatest. I think it would be unfair to say what is the greatest takeover. Excuse me. I did not think that was going to happen. I can't say the greatest takeover. I can't say what the greatest takeover is until they stop doing these. Then we can properly and fairly evaluate what is the greatest takeover of all time. But those 3 are some of my favorites. Takeover Brooklyn 2, Takeover London, and Takeover Dallas. But this takeover was really good. Was it one of the best? No. Would I put it in my top 5? No. But it was still very good. I enjoyed it. I had made a statement on Twitter when I said, at the end of this takeover, when I said, when I was 6 years old, me and my cousin, we were at home on a random Thursday night, and there was really nothing on TV to watch. And he was flipping through channels. And he came across Channel 9, UPN. And he flipped past it. But for like a couple of seconds, I saw a wrestling ring and 2 wrestlers in there. Eddie Guerrero was one of them. And I told him, I said, whoa. Go back. What's that SmackDown thing? Go back to that. Goes back to that. I've been a fan ever since. And I do not regret it one bit. And this takeover reignited and reassured how I feel about wrestling, which I love it. To me, it's the best sport in the world. It's nothing like it. The athleticism, the strength, the psychology, the moments, the epicness, the danger. Nothing like it. No disrespect to other sports, because I like other sports, obviously, besides wrestling. I just happen to cover wrestling. But wrestling is number one to me. Real quick, I want to talk about the aftermath of Takeover, the interview with Bianca Belair and her comments towards Sam Roberts. Real quick, I'm going to talk about it. I don't take what Sam Roberts said seriously at all. I believe he was just trying to generate some heat. He was trying to get the fans more on Belair's side, I believe. Obviously, someone was in his ear feeding him what he said with those awkward ass pauses that he had when he was starting his statement. So, the fans that were up in arms about it on Twitter, calling him racist and an idiot and all of this nonsense, don't worry about it. Chill out. It's probably kayfabe anyway. I doubt he really feels this way. So that's all I got. But it was funny as hell when Bianca Belair told him to kiss her ass. Kiss my ass. That shit was funny. I'm out.